Hello the internet and welcome back to my channel. On this video I'm going to restore and retrobright this Macintosh SE computer which I have repaired on this channel some time ago over the course of 3 different videos which I'm gonna link down below. As you can see, this Macintosh is in need of a little bit of TLC, a little bit of cleaning, retrobrighting, a little bit of attention, and hopefully I can get it to a point where it's nice and shine, and I'd like to put it on display in my living room because this is the only working Macintosh I have in my collection. This Macintosh had 4 different folds plus a tired CRT, which I'm gonna try and swap it on this video if I'm able to. First step obviously is to discharge the CRT as usual. As you can see, I did a little bit of cleaning over the course of the repair videos, so it's not as bad as it was at the beginning, but you can still see a little bit of rust around and lots and lots of dirt and grime in this thing. First thing first is obviously remove all the cables, the hard drive, power and signal cables, the neck board, and then remove the analog board, which for whatever reason I was never able to remove easily. I'm not sure whether there's an easy way to do it, but it always gets stuck and it takes me some time to take it out of a chassis. But in the end, it just came out as expected. Now the motherboard is coming out, and now it's time to remove the CRT. I'm always concerned with CRTs because it really takes just a little nick in the glass and the vacuum goes and the tube is basically to be disposed of, so always have to be extremely careful. Now the main metal frame is coming out of the front panel, and then it's time to remove the speaker, which unfortunately was installed with this like melted plastic dots, and I have to be careful with the knife because it's pretty easy for the knife to just jump around and scratch things or damage stuff. I will have to put some glue at the end to just put it back. Now it's time to remove the many labels which I found on this plastic case. I'm using WD-40 for that. It's pretty nice. You just have to leave it there to do its work, and eventually, usually the adhesive just comes off within just a few hours. Some of these labels were pretty tough, especially these plastic ones. They just didn't want to come off, and they were peeling off in pieces. That took quite some time. Even the paper ones took a little bit of time. Some others were pretty easy, like this one. You just need a little bit of caution. The whole label peels off pretty easily, and after removing the residues of glues, it's time to take the plastic case to my bathtub and give it a thorough clean with a sponge and a toothbrush, because there's quite a lot of grime stuck into those crevices and slots and everything, so that's taken a little bit of time. But it was actually a nice feeling to see all this, like, 30-40 years of grime coming off and revealing a plastic case in not too bad condition, to be honest. The fan area is the most offending because it's full of baked grime. I mean, it took me a while. Then a little bit of a shower to get rid of the soap and grime, and the outcome was pretty good. As you can see, I mean, it needs a little bit of retrobrighting because you can see behind the labels it's wider, but the case is in excellent shape. I'm pretty happy with it. And now it's gonna be time to remove the logo, because I did retrobright a monitor some time ago without removing the logo, and I ended up basically bleaching the logo. I mean, it survived, but it wasn't the best thing to do. Now is the actual retrobrighting process. I'm using 12% peroxide diluted in water. I find this method to be the best for me. It takes a little bit of time, like a number of days, but it's low enough to give control on the amount of retrobrighting I want to do, and it never really delivered anything like marbled plastic or anything, so I'm pretty happy. The outcome was actually pretty good. Now it's time to wash the mainboard, and for this one I'm using an Electrolube fluid, which I'm gonna link down below in the description. It's not cheap, but you can reuse it, and it's designed to wash PCBs, particularly in ultrasonic cleaners, but you can use it manually, it's no big deal, just make sure you're wearing gloves. I really like it. It is very good at removing oxidation from the board. It's not just grime and dust and dirt. And being designed for PCBs, I always feel like it's a good idea. It's a good products, a good cleaner that hopefully is not going to damage anything. The outcome is always amazing. The boards come out brand new from this thing. I'm definitely recommend it. Now it's time to try and get the rust off the metal frame. And this is actually, I think, is coming from my Macintosh SE 30, which was in horrible shape, but it gives you an idea what happens. What I used is citric acid, which is more or less lemon juice, and you can see it working its magic through the rust. And also, being citric acid shouldn't be too bad in terms of disposing it and in terms of health concerns. The outcome is pretty good. The citric acid has basically removed whatever coating was applied to these metal frames. The rust is completely gone, even though you can still see the corrosion of the rust on the metal wherever rust was present, but there's not much you can do about that. And the only downside is that this metal is now bare metal and it rusts very easily, literally like before your eyes. On some areas I had to use these metal wire brush to get rid of the rust. But overall the process was pretty successful. And finally I applied a coating of this product, and I'm gonna explain you in a minute because the outcome was absolutely amazing. Now, when it comes to CRTs, the one that was used on this computer is this one on the left-hand side. You can see it has some burning on it. You can see the menus and some icons. The one on the right-hand side is the one from the Macintosh SE 30, which is basically gone unless I redo the motherboard. And there's very, very little burning, so I think I'm gonna use this one. And it should be exactly the same picture tube. I don't know whether it's working or not, to be honest, but I'll give it a good clean, as it happens with any CRTs, because they are like dust magnets. And this is just being reinstalled on the front frame, which is now thoroughly cleaned and retrobrighted. Let me spend a minute about the coating that I've used for this metal frame. Now, the metal frame is grounded, and it's supposed to be something which connects everything within the computer to ground. So the hard drive, the floppy drive, the motherboard, everything is also connected through the chassis to ground. So ideally, I didn't want to use regular paint, because paint will just leave an insulating coating on the metal frame itself. Now, I looked into make my own like chrome coating at home or whatever that's called, and it's not an easy task. It requires lots of space, lots of chemicals, lots of equipment. So I was about to just give up and use some paint, and then maybe use some star washers, which are usually biting into the paint enough to make contact with the metal, or maybe just, you know, scrape away a little bit of paint where the screw is going. Then someone online recommended this galvanizing cold spray, and I found a can from Screwfix here in the UK, which is like a mainstream hardware store. And it worked like a charm. This is not a paint. The idea is that it chemically reacts with the metal and it bonds with the metal itself, creating a galvanized surface. And my hope was that it was going to be conductive. But when I went to check with my multimeter, actually I didn't read much conductivity. If I applied a bit more pressure on my probes, yeah, I could see some conductivity, and I'm pretty confident I was not piercing through the coating, which is not something, again, this is not paint, so you're not really piercing through anything. But that was a bit disappointing. That being said, bear with me a second, and something happened when I actually put together the hard drive and the floppy drive on this coated frame. And now the pleasant surprise when I went to attach the floppy drive and the hard drive to the coated galvanized frame. I was totally not expecting it, but I tested continuity, and continuity was perfect between the drives, between the frame and the drives and everything. So obviously just the screws were enough to bite into the coating and make perfect contact. That's exactly what I was looking for, and it also looks great, like visually. So that was a great success. I was pretty happy with it. This is the fan shroud, and you can see it was in pretty horrible shape. This is already clean, by the way, and that's the outcome. I just gave it the same treatment I gave to everything else. It looks absolutely perfect. And I decided to go ahead and, let's call it, service the fan. So some fans have this sticker that you peel off, and you can add a little bit of lubricant to whatever is behind, whether it's leaves or ball bearing. That usually helps with the life of the fan. So I went ahead with that, then the fan went back on the shroud, and the shroud went back on the analog board. And I have to say that I'm pretty happy with the outcome considering where it started from. This is pretty nice. Now this is some sort of, I don't know if it's a shield, it's also connecting the motherboard to the chassis for ground connectivity. I ended up removing it, and which was not easy because it's soldered in many points, and the whole metal frame actually acts as a heatsink. So soldering and desoldering is not easy. Especially when I soldered it back, obviously the metal was coated, but the solder actually stuck to the metal anyways. So yeah, that was kind of okay, but it's taking quite a lot of time. Now it's time to reattach the wires, the floppy drive first, then it's time for the SCSI hard drive. The analog board is going back in. Again, I always struggle to find the easy way to attach it, but that usually works eventually. Screws are going back in, and also the ground lead is going back to the main chassis. And now it's time to check continuity, and it works perfectly fine between the ground lead and the screws of the analog board. For the CRT, I bought some of this dielectric silicone grease, which is acting as an insulation in between the suction cup and the CRT itself. Now, the idea is that this is preventing air and dust from getting inside under the suction cup, so it's basically preventing any arching from happening. Definitely designed for bigger CRTs, but it doesn't hurt or to use it on a smaller one, and I really like the lubricated layer that it added in between the suction cup and the CRT itself, so I think I'm gonna use it on all my CRTs from now on. The neck board is going back on this very nice and shiny CRT neck, and also the deflection cable is plugged back into the analog board. Now it's time to plug the power to the hard drive and to the motherboard, which is also sending the video signal back to the analog board, which is then feeding the CRT. The rest of the frame is attached, a little bit of extra cleaning, and this is the outcome, and I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. It's absolutely amazing, it's really shiny, everything looks brand new. Now it's time to cover it up and put the screws back, which I'll have to remove in a moment because I forgot the CRT belongs to a different computer, so it will need a little bit of adjustment. Moment of truth, let's power it up. And after adjusting the brightness control a bit, we do have life. And yeah, because this is a new CRT. It's from another computer. I had no idea whether it was working or not. It works beautifully. It's very bright. I don't see the burning at all, and it's incredibly bright and sharp. Coming from a different computer, I had to twist the picture a bit. So I had to loosen the yoke, the deflection yoke on the CRT, and do some adjustment to adjust the raster rotation on screen. And after that, it's just a matter of adjusting the width and the height of the picture, and finally to center the picture on the CRT itself. Final step is to adjust the focus, which was pretty good, but I tweaked the adjustment anyways just to make sure I was in that sweet spot. And I have to say the CRT is very, very sharp. And as a final touch, the Apple logo is going back in. Now, too bad this scratch on the front panel, it doesn't come off, so I'll have to find a replacement at some point, but for now, this will do. And here it is, a fully restored, adjusted, repaired, retrobrighted Macintosh SE, which is now going to be into my collection on display, I guess, in my living room. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the process. I really enjoyed doing this restoration. It's taken a while, to be honest. It went on for a number of months. And if you like this video, as usual, I'd appreciate a thumbs up down below and leave a comment. Consider subscribing to this channel if you like what I'm doing. For now, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon on this channel, and I'll leave you with a few minutes of Macintosh SE background noise. See you soon!